damn, like, I still knew one or two things that was going to happen in this arc, and I was still shocked and surprised watching it in the overall for the first time. Like, my goodness, I thought the last few arcs were great. This one just, damn, this is easily one of the best arcs in the entire show. Now, I can't say it's quite my favorite, but it's at least top 3, maybe top 2. I don't know. I still need to get through Swordsmith Village and Hashira training to really say that for certain. But what I can tell you is that this arc is amazing, and we have a lot to talk about, because I mistakenly thought that this arc was 9 episodes. Well, I was corrected immediately, because it actually turns out to be 10. Yeah, it's 10 episodes. So, there's a lot to talk about here, so let's not waste any more time and just dive straight into it, because I literally have like 2 full pages of bullet points and important moments to discuss. So, let's not waste any more time and dive in. Welcome back to Animation Station, welcome back to Demon Slayer Month, Slayer-Tember, whatever. Welcome to my review of the absolute insanity that is the Entertainment District arc. Episodes 34 to 44 of Demon Slayer. And you may be thinking, didn't you literally just review, like, episodes... What was it? Didn't you literally just the last one you review, episode 22 to 26? Yes, here's my explanation. For those of you that didn't watch my Mugen Train movie review, there is also a saga in the show of Mugen Train, but the only difference between it and the movie is that it has a lot more backstory of Rengoku. That is literally the only difference. Outside of that is the exact same arc. So, that arc encompasses episodes 27 through 33 of Demon Slayer. So, now with the Entertainment District arc, now we get straight into a full 10 episode arc. And it takes place a few episodes later, episodes 34 to 44. There's a lot to talk about with this arc. Let's not waste any more time and just get straight into it, because there's a lot to discuss. Like, there is a lot to discuss. Ready? Here we go. I'm probably just going to fly through a great majority of these bullet points to try to keep this from being too long. Hopefully keep it under, or maybe at, half an hour. Let's see. Here we go. Akaza is reprimanded by Muzan despite killing Rengoku, because he thinks that is nothing that's supposed to be worthy of praise. After his dismissal and out of anger, Akaza tears Tanjiro's sword to shreds, because his sword was still lodged in him when he was running away, so he still has the sword. So then he plants the sword in the tree, and uses his power to just immediately just strike it to pieces. Then the 3 Slayers return to the Butterfly Mansion with Tanjiro still in mourning and unable to smile. Led by Rengoku's crow, Tanjiro ends up running to the home of the fallen Hashira to deliver the final messages that he wanted to. Tanjiro tries to give his condolences, only for Shinjiro, Rengoku's father, to strike him and his other son Senjiro. Then Shidoro tells Tanjiro about sun breathing, something that he didn't really know a whole lot about. And also explains the significance of Tanjiro's Fulatar earrings, however you pronounce that. Like I said before, I'm an uncultured idiot, so I'm going to keep pronouncing things wrong, and I'm sorry. Hanefuta, whatever you freaking call it. The earrings he wears that are way different than anything else in anime. Shinjiro then curses Rengoku's name, which causes Tanjiro to lash out in anger and headbutt Shinjiro, knocking him unconscious for a bit. And also knocking himself out for a bit, too. Then after he regains consciousness and Shinjiro is off getting another drink, Tanjiro tells Shinjiro about Rengoku's final moments. Then Shinjiro tries to give Tanjiro a journal, only to find the pages torn apart by Shinjiro. Then Tanjiro vows to become a Hashira and master the Hinokami Kagura to honor Rengoku's memory. Shinjiro then gifts Tanjiro Rengoku's sword guard, promising it'll protect him as he leaves. Then Shinjiro tells Shinjiro Rengoku's last message for him, which he expected to be something out of, like, complaints or anger, but instead it's just take care of yourself. and that causes him to cry and actually, have some pride in his son. Then Tanjiro makes it back to the Butterfly Mansion, only for his swordsmith to chase him around in anger for losing his sword again. This swordsmith just hates Tanjiro's guts. Like, seriously hates his guts. Then 4 months of training and demon slaying passes by, and the 3 slayers keep getting stronger. Tanjiro later comes back from a mission, only to find Tengen trying to kidnap Aoi. Yes, Tengen is back. He is the main Hashira of this arc. Tanjiro convinces Tengen that he, Zenitsu, and Inosuke will take Aoi's place for the mission. And then Tanjiro, Zenitsu, Inosuke, and Tengen, I'm just going to call him Tengen. Tengen head for Entertainment District, ending episode 34. So yes, episode 34 is both an epilogue to the Mugen Train arc by having Tanjiro deliver Rengoku's final messages to his family, but also starting the next arc by explaining why Tanjiro and Co. end up going with Tengen to this Entertainment District. And that's all in episode 34, and episode 34 is 40 minutes long. Yeah, like, no joke, it is 40 minutes long. It is one of the longest first episodes of any arc in this show. It's ridiculous. Only rivaled by the last episode in this arc, which is 32 minutes long. Anyway, as we continue on here, then we get to post-credit scenes. Yes, something Season 1 did not have was post-credit scenes, or as they call them in the show, nin-nins. That's literally what they're called, and that's what I'm going to call them too for the sake of simplicity. So the first one appears in the show, and it's just Tengen trying to explain some things about the district and himself to the Slayers. And then talks about the next episode, and then it ends, and you have to go to the next episode. So it's like the episode previews you get when you're watching Dragon Ball, but instead of using footage from the next episode, they use completely new animation to tell both something hilarious and also lead into the next episode. And they don't use footage from the next episode, keeping it unpredictable, which is nice. I do appreciate an anime that's actually able to make itself stand out in that regard. Then, starting episode 35, Tengen explains to them everything that he knows about this entertainment district, from the women, to him having 3 wives, to how the system overall works, and how women in this district are treated as objects. Yeah, that's going to be very common in this arc, so just be prepared for it. We're going to have to talk about some of it. Tengen orders them to find his wives while he patrols for demons, which angers Zenitsu because he has 3 wives and actually has women, even though he is, in Zenitsu's opinion, a weirdo. Even though, look in the mirror, Zenitsu, you're one too. But also because, well, he's Zenitsu, and anything that revolves anything around girls is going to anger him, especially the way that Tengen words explaining about how girls work in this district. And those two get into a conflict immediately, leading to some hilarious moments. Then the 3 Slayers disguise themselves as women. Yes, it follows the heroes need to go undercover and drag trope, but it's one of the funniest versions of that, not only because it's later revealed that no one actually falls for this. Like, the main people in these houses that the Slayers had to infiltrate, they immediately knew who all of them were. Aside from maybe the one that leads the house that Inosuke ends up in. That might be the only one that was fooled, but the one that Tanjiro ends up in is not fooled, and neither is the one that Zenitsu ends up in. Like, they are sussed out immediately by the higher-ups. But they are not exposed because they understand that's probably for a good reason. So, they see right through the disguises, but they don't rat them out. Which is nice. Way too often you get, like, their cover being blown too early and they have to, like, either try hard to retain that cover or run away before the people that were involved with them undercover, end up chasing them around. That old cliche. Anyway, moving on now. Tanjiro is then immediately employed. Like, just out of nowhere, immediately as soon as they walk out the door, he is employed to one of the houses. Then Inosuke makes an uncultured remark and ends up getting employed by a chaperone of the Ogimoto house, and that's where he ends up. And then Zenitsu is the only one that's outright rejected, because his makeup looks awful on his face, and he ends up stuck on his own with Tengen. Until Tengen drops off Zenitsu at Kyogoku house, refusing to deal with his nonsense. Then Tanjiro does a great job helping out and doing all his chores, but he's unable to get intel for the time being. Then there is a hilarious silent film cutaway gag that shows that Tanjiro is unable to lie without making a dumb face. That got a good laugh out of me, especially if you're someone that knows silent film and how it worked way back when in the 1920s and 10s. Like, that's funny. Tanjiro then silently vows to find and or save Suma and reunite her with Tengen. Then Inosuke gets suspicious of a demon lurking in the Ogimoto house and starts to investigate. Then it's revealed that Makio is held captive by the upper rank 6 Kizuki demon Daki, ending episode 35. Now, Inosuke doesn't find Makio, but we just see in a later scene that Makio is being held captive by Daki. And Daki is probably one of the most badass villains in this entire show. Like, she is freaking awesome. Love her. You know, until she turns into a crying child at the end, but we'll get there when we get there. That ends episode 35. Then, in Nin scene number 2, Tanjiro causes Zenitsu to faint after looking in a mirror and seeing his makeup. Okay, that's a great gag. Then moving on to episode 36, Inosuke senses Daki's presence and tries to chase her out of the attic, but to no avail. Then Zenitsu comforts a crying child, only to find Daki right behind him. Then Daki scolds him and the girl. Obviously Daki's in disguise as one of these higher-up women in the district, causing Zenitsu to grab her arm to save the girl from being abused and from having her ear torn off. Yeah, Daki, even in her human form, is a very relentless son of a bitch. Like, very relentless. Tanjiro, meanwhile, continues to excel at his job, while Inosuke is scolded for smashing the wall in his house while trying to chase the demon in the attic. Daki is angered by Zenitsu's defiance and knocks him out with a single punch. A flashback then shows how Daki brutally murdered Amitsu, the original head of the Kyogoku house. It also reveals that Daki has killed 7 Hashira in that same flashback after that, and she's praised by Muzan himself as one of his proudest achievements. Daki then sees right through Zenitsu's disguise and vows to devour all the Slayers in the district, knowing that he did not come alone, showing right away that she is a very smart demon. Tanjiro smells a murky scent and keeps up his guard, ending episode 36. And instead of having a nin-nin, we instead get a post-credits scene that shows Zenitsu waking up, comforted by some of the girls that he saved from Daki's wrath, only to be immediately captured by Daki herself as it cuts to black. And then we get a Nin 3. Yeah, for some reason they decided to have 2 post-credit scenes in this episode. It's weird. It shows Zenitsu inviting Nezuko to a Christmas party, only to be joined by Giyu, Tanjiro, and Inosuke. First of all, why is there anything Christmas related in this arc? Because it has nothing to do with Christmas. And 2, why is Giyu here? Like, he's not in this arc at all. So him just being here is beyond random. Alright, moving on now. Inosuke then informs Tanjiro of finding a demon, but he isn't believed due to having a lack of evidence and not knowing what this demon actually looks like. Tengen then expresses regret for Zenitsu's disappearance and tells Inosuke and Tanjiro to go home because he's realizing that it's becoming too dangerous for them. But, after he leaves, Inosuke convinces Tanjiro to keep going forward with the mission, showing that they're now 4th ranks in the Demon Slayer Corps, because he shows Tanjiro how to make their rank symbols appear on their hands. How Tanjiro didn't figure that out is beyond me. Anyway, Tanjiro then finishes his tenure at his assigned house, and he gives his paycheck to Koinatsu, who is the head of this house. And she reveals that she knew the truth all along, but knows that was for a reason, so she didn't rat him out, showing that she is a genuinely great character. Okay, that's page 1. Now we get on to page 2. Like I said, there is a lot to talk about with this arc. Shortly after Tanjiro leaves, Koinatsu is absorbed by Daki into one of her Obai belts. Tanjiro then immediately smells Daki's scent and tracks her down, going back the other way instead of leaving. Inosuke gets impatient for waiting for Tanjiro because he said he was going to appear that night and they'd take down the demon together, and he retrieves his swords from the attic thanks to Tengen's muscle mice. Why there's muscle mice, I don't know, because it's anime. Ready to end all this on his own. Then Tanjiro battles Daki, struggling against her Obai belt, but manages to free Koinatsu, impressing and also frustrating the demon. Tanjiro then prepares to continue the fight against Daki, ending episode 37. Then Nin number 4 shows Tengen explaining more about the muscle mice to Inosuke. Yeah, I think these Nin are just hilarious little cutaway gags to end the episodes on, for a much lighter note. Tengen finds his first wife, Hinatsuru, held captive by Daki's Obai, and frees her, and tells her to go find shelter and whatever. Then Tengen uses sound-breathing roar, trying to force a demon out of hiding. And we find out later that it's not Daki, it's somebody else, because he senses another demon nearby. Which, ends up being just Daki's severed Obai, but that's for later. Tanjiro switches from his water breathing to his Hinokami Kagura as he continues to battle Daki, slicing more of her Obai. Then Tanjiro sees the opening thread, but then it snaps immediately, and Daki knocks him to the ground, showing her speed is faster than him. Then Tanjiro's muscles cramp up from using the Hinokami Kagura too many times, which puts him in danger. Tanjiro uses recovery breathing just in time, dodging Daki's final strike and continuing the fight. Then Inosuke finds a hidden tunnel and contorts his body to crawl down into it, because only his head can fit through there. So he literally contorts his entire body like a worm, dislocates all his bones, and slithers down into the hole. It's weird. It's funny, and it's also kind of weird. Inosuke ends up finding all the women who have been captured in Daki's Obai, as well as the skeletons of those that she has devoured. And this Obai apparently has its own consciousness, because it ends up fighting him in this underground chasm. It's anime. I guess it's supposed to be as outlandish as possible. Then two of Tengen's wives... Oh wait, no, that's later. Sorry. Inosuke slices the Obai apart and saves 3 of the captive, but then starts to struggle because the Obai starts hardening and softening at the right moments to avoid getting cut. Then 2 of Tengen's wives, Suma and Makio, team up with Inosuke to fight the Obai. And Zenitsu is also freed from this Obai, and now he is still asleep, so he's in locked-in warrior badass mode, joining the battle and slicing faster than lightning with his thunder breathing. Then Tengen joins in as well, destroying the possessed Obai in an instant after crashing in through the ceiling. Then a flashback shows Tengen training his wives how to survive. And Tengen, in the present time, praises his wives for their dedication and gets fired up to fight, ending episode 38. Then we get to Nin number 5, which shows Tanjiro explaining that Tengen's entire family practices polygamy. I'm not going any further than that, because if I do, I'm going to get flagged. So, if you want to know what that is, look it up. Otherwise, don't. Anyway, moving on from that weird bit of information. Daki then transforms into her full form as the severed Obai reunites with her body, which also has some of Muzan's blood, which turns her hair from black to its now iconic white and green. which contrasts well with the purple design of her obai belt. Daki then displays her new strength by using this new empowered obai to slice entire buildings apart, crushing civilians to death right in front of Tanjiro's eyes. Then Daki continues to insult Tanjiro, and he is really pissed off to the point where he's even bleeding from his eyes despite taking a slice through the shoulder. And a pretty deep one too that almost takes his arm off. But he is literally bleeding from his eyes now, and he is really pissed off. Then Tanjiro remembers a letter that Shinjuru ended up sending him in between events, and forgives him for his actions from later. Fueled by anger from the lives that had been lost, Tanjiro rips off Daki's leg, keeping her from escaping, and keeps fighting. And then as they fight, Daki suddenly gets hit with one of Muzan's memories, seeing Tanjiro's father seemingly defeating Muzan all those years ago. We'll find out more about that in another arc, I'm sure. But that's interesting, because I think that's the first time we've actually seen that particular thing happen. So it's pretty interesting. Then Daki tries to use her Blood Demon art on Tanjiro, but he immediately counters with his Hino Kamikagura. Then Daki narrowly avoids getting decapitated by severing her own head with hanging onto her mythical obai that's literally coursing through her whole body. But Tanjiro keeps forcing her to evade because he keeps attacking. Then Tanjiro almost severs Daki's head again, but then his stamina runs out and he struggles to breathe. And right when Tanjiro is about to die, Nezuko pops out of the box and chops half of Daki's head off, immediately saving his life. Daki then, out of anger, slices Nezuko in half, preparing to kill her as Muzan had ordered her to in a flashback we see during this very scene. However, Nezuko ends up regenerating quickly and grows even stronger, growing vines and a horn as her demon side begins to overwhelm her actual humanity. And Demon Nezuko is pretty damn scary. Like, very powerful. How powerful? Well, she regenerates her limbs in instants, and then Nezuko immediately stops Daki through her back and into the ground, literally implanting her foot into her body and severing her spine. And that is what ends episode 39, and it's pretty shocking to say the least. Not to mention, she also ended up breaking her muzzle, so we see her in pretty much her full demon form up to this point. And it's a pretty damn cool visual. Then we get to Nin number 6, which shows Tengen, Inosuke, and Zenitsu rushing to join the battle. Yeah, one of the more simple to the point Nins. Honestly, they probably could have done without it in this one. Then, as episode 40 begins, Nezuko starts stomping off all of Daki's limbs as Tanjiro reawakes again from a vision of his brother telling him that she's about to lose herself. And even despite her body being chopped apart again, including her own head, Nezuko keeps kicking Daki's ass because her blood literally holds all of her limbs together, which allows her to keep combating against Daki's obai. It is badass shit, and she continues to absolutely kick the hell out of Daki. Like, really, really does a number on her. Then her limbs reattach, and she burns Daki with her exploding blood. You know, her demon art from the Mount Nataguma arc. Then Nezuko finally throws Daki through several buildings, and she accidentally ends up harming some civilians. And since she's in full demon form, she sees their blood and gets very tempted. And right when she's about to strike and do the one thing that she's never supposed to do, Tanjiro shows up and restrains Nezuko by putting his sword in her mouth. Obviously, you know, it's sheathed, but it's still in her mouth to hold her back. And he tries to calm her down before she loses her humanity for good. And that's when Daki reappears, severely damaged, burned, and very pissed off, as she is ready to kill them both. Then that's when Tengen appears, slices all the obai to stop the attack, saving both of them, and Tengen reveals that Daki is not who he's hunting for, as her head then falls off her shoulders because it turned out he also sliced her head right off her shoulders as well. in an instant. Like, seriously, Tengen is extremely powerful. It's ridiculous. After a lot of struggling, Tanjiro, and also after getting thrown out of the house because of Nezuko's struggling, Tanjiro sings Nezuko a lullaby, and that finally calms her down as she memorizes her human life and her mom singing this very lullaby to her when they were walking through the woods, which causes Nezuko to cry, which returns her back to her normal, depowered, tiny self again. And then she goes to sleep to, recharge from her injuries. Okay, that's page 2. Okay, I'm wrong. That's actually 3 pages in this one. Sorry. Tengen then berates and taunts Daki, causing her to cry out in anguish as she literally holds her own severed head in her hands and her body is just, stuck on its knees. And that's when Daki's brother Gyutaro appears, saving her from Tengen's sword strike at the very last second. And Gyutaro, oh man, this guy is freaky. One of these creepiest demon designs I think we've seen in the show so far. Because, he is frail, for one, and he is so, it's really hard to explain, but, his entire midsection is nothing but bone and a very, very tiny bit of skin, giving him, this weird curve throughout his body. Not to mention his eyes, his arms, and of course his weapon being sickles, something we have not seen anyone use in this show yet up to this point. Then Tengen battles against Gyutaro's blood demon art, Blood Sickles, which allows him to literally attack him without moving. Then Daki teams up with Gyutaro to try to fight Tengen, which ends episode 40. Then Nin number 7 shows Tanjiro explaining how Nezuko comforted her siblings after her dad died. Then moving on to episode 41, Tanjiro puts a sleeping Nezuko back in her box, vowing to fight until the very end. Tengen reveals he is immune to poison and separates Daki from Gyutaro, her head falling off again, because he threw an explosive at her. Then Inosuke, Zenitsu, and Tanjiro join the fight to the shock of Tengen as his wives evacuate the entire district. Then Tanjiro and Tengen fight Gyutaro, while Zenitsu and Inosuke fight Daki, the final battle officially beginning. And then, as they're battling, Hanatsuru reappears and fires Hysteria poisoned kunai at Gyutaro, ending episode 41. Then Nin number 8 shows Tengen visited by Rengoku's spirit, who asks him to protect the Slayers. Even now, Rengoku continues to impact this show, even after his death. It's crazy. Then Tengen cuts Gyutaro's legs off, the poison kunai temporarily inhibiting his regeneration. And a flashback shows Tengen spending a day with his wives, paying his respects to his fallen siblings, and having a picnic. And it's a really sweet moment, and you see that these 4 people really do love each other. It's really sweet. Then Gyutaro manages to still regenerate despite the poison kunai, and it sends Tanjiro backwards, as he tried to get in to slice his neck as Tengen was holding him still. Then Tengen keeps fighting, using his sound breathing to neutralize the attacks, and Tanjiro comes up with the brilliant idea to combine his water breathing and his Hinokami Kagura into one attack, which saves Hanatsuru from Gyutaro because Gyutaro had teleported away from Tengen temporarily and was holding Hanatsuru by her mouth, ready to kill her. So Tanjiro used both techniques combined to move way faster and save Hanatsuru from getting killed, which of course earns the thanks of Tengen for saving his wife. Then Tanjiro joins the fight against Daki with Inosuke and Zenitsu, leaving Tengen to fight Gyutaro alone by himself briefly. Then, with the help of Tanjiro and Zenitsu, Inosuke saws Daki's head off with his serrated swords and ends the fight, temporarily. Then Inosuke tries to take Daki's head far away from her body so it can't be reattached, only to get stabbed immediately by Kitaro's poison sickles and taken out of the fight. Genuinely shocking moment, and I did think he was going to die there. Because he was bleeding. He was bleeding bad, because it literally went through his back and out his front. Thankfully that didn't happen, though, because I'd be pissed if they killed off my favorite character in the show. With Daki's Obai going crazy destroying more buildings, Inosuke officially out of the fight, and Tengen having revealed to have lost an arm because of Kitaro moving so quickly, everything's looking pretty grim as Tanjiro falls from the rooftop, ending episode 42. Then Nin number 9 shows Tanjiro alone, refusing to give up no matter how bleak everything looks. Tanjiro being Tanjiro. And looks like my attempt to try to make this shorter has failed. Sorry. I tried to make this shorter than a half hour, but it looks like that's not going to happen. Sorry. Let's keep going. Tanjiro ends up passing out for a brief moment, only to be told by Nezuko in his dreams to keep on fighting. So then he reawakens to find the entire district destroyed and on fire, and Kitaro standing over him. Kitaro also tells him of his friends dying and that Daki's head has been reattached yet again. Then Kitaro breaks two of Tanjiro's fingers, causing him to try and flee, only to be kicked through a building. When he's about to die, it's then revealed that his flee was actually a tactic to lure Kitaro into a false sense of victory. As Tanjiro then headbutts Kitaro and stabs him with another poison kunai that he ended up finding on the ground. Then Tanjiro reflects on how he stayed human despite the temptations and offers from other demons that he's slain. Daki tries to interfere with the fight, only for Zenitsu to reappear out of the rubble that he was stuck in, and use godlike speed thunder breathing to keep her occupied. And then, even after failing to decapitate Kitaro, Tanjiro doesn't give up the fight and keeps swinging his sword, buying enough time for Tengen to reawaken and narrowly saving Tanjiro from getting his eye gouged out. Then Tengen and Kitaro engage in the most insane fight of the series so far, or as I think CBR put it in one of their reviews, going full-on DBZ. Because from here, it just goes absolutely nuts. Like, even more nuts than Rengoku versus Akaza, which I did not think was going to happen. Then Tanjiro re-enters the fight, only to be stabbed straight through his bottom jaw, but he still starts cutting through his neck as his scar turns into the flame scar that Shinjiro was talking about that symbolizes sun breathers. And while that's going on, Inosuke ends up rejoining the fight and aids Zenitsu, revealing that he literally shifted all his organs around to avoid anything cataclysmic, so they missed his heart. But he's still bleeding pretty heavily, so he's still not out of the woods. But he still rejoins the fight to aid Zenitsu, and the two of them work together to sever Daki's obai that was connecting her head to her neck. And after a long and very brutal fight, Kitaro and Daki are finally decapitated simultaneously by Inosuke, Zenitsu, and Tanjiro, finally ending the battle. Then Kitaro's body launches one last blood demon art, slicing the entire area, as Tanjiro fights from poison, and Tengen is unable to move in time. And it's nothing but dust seems to remain, which ends episode 43 ambiguously. So for one episode, the fate of the heroes was left in the air. Once again, huge props to this show for having balls to keep things unpredictable and making it look like anyone and everyone could die at any moment. Like, not every show has the balls to do that, and it's nice to see that this is one of them. Then Nin number 10 shows Nezuko explaining that Tanjiro got his hard head from their mom, because it was said that their mom actually headbutted a boar. And in a funny little cutaway gag, it shows Inosuke standing in for the boar that she headbutted. Oh, that's funny. Like, this show can still be very funny in between all the bleak, dark, crazy stuff. Then, as we get to the final episode of the arc, episode 44, it's revealed that Nezuko reawakened from her box and neutralized the final attack from Kyotaro's body, saving everyone from being sliced to pieces. Then Tanjiro wakes up later and reunites with Nezuko, who's now wearing a rope instead of a muzzle, because, her muzzle actually broke when she went full demon form. They reunite with Zenitsu, and they arrive only to find Inosuke dying from the poison. And that's when Nezuko uses her blood demon art to burn away the poison, saving his life at the very last second. And then she does the same to Tengen, saving him, but because she set him on fire, she gets reprimanded by Suma, thinking that she was going to cremate him. Also, what's extra funny is that throughout all this going on, it's like dot eyes Nezuko. It's not full pupil Nezuko. So it makes it even funnier. Then Tanjiro collects another blood sample for Lady Tameo, and then later finds both the heads of Daki and Gyutaro. And both demons are arguing and hurt each other verbally, until Tanjiro silences Gyutaro, knowing that everything he says, he does not mean. And Daki cries as she dies because she doesn't want to go, and Gyutaro thinks back to his past life as well before joining her in death. And I can't really explain to you without actually telling you about the past life. So I'm going to tell you this part. I didn't make this a bullet point because it would have been way too long to explain. So let me find it here. Because their story actually is really tragic. Once again, they're doing a great job humanizing the demons as they die. Something that this show is very good at. Let me find it here. There we go. Gyutaro reminisces about their past. He was born into the Rashomon riverbanks, the lower caste in the entertainment district. Children were considered curses, since back then they were looked at as just extra mouths to feed. Because of this, his mother attempted to kill him several times over his existence. Dark. Born with a gaunt body, he nonetheless managed to survive, though he was berated and insulted over his appearance, his uncleanliness, and his voice. He was especially despised for living in the entertainment district where beauty was a measure of value. When he was hungry, he ended up having to devour mice and insects, and his favorite toy was a forgotten sickle that a customer left behind. His life, however, changed when Ume was born, aka Daki. Gyutaro considered her his pride and joy, as her great beauty caused even grown-ups to be stunned. He discovered he was skilled at combat and used it in his work, becoming a debt collector, along with his sickle. His appearance and horrid reputation instilled fear throughout the district, causing him to embrace his ugliness. He was especially proud of Ume's beauty, and believed it removed his sense of inferiority. Gyutaro felt that their lives were getting better, but that good feeling soon disappeared when Yume turned 13. As he walked into the district, he ended up finding Yume's charred body lying in a ditch to his horror. She had attacked a customer, a samurai, and blinded him by stabbing him in the eye with her hairpin. Because of self-defense, because this guy was about to do something horrible to her. In retaliation, she was bound and burned alive by the samurai, and Gyutaro only happened upon the body after he returned home from work. When she struggles to breathe, Gyutaro realizes that somehow, despite being badly burned, she's still alive. He tearfully grabs her body and yells for no one to get what he owns. He curses the man who took her sister and yells for Yume to be turned back to normal. Then Gyutaro angrily threatens to kill the gods, but is suddenly sliced across the back. As he collapses, that same samurai from earlier is revealed to be the one who attacked him, because of course he is. He is accompanied by Yume's madam, who thanks him for killing Gyutaro since he was troublesome throughout the district, unaware that Gyutaro is still alive and hearing her words. She laments that Yume is gone, but offers another pretty girl as a reward. The samurai pauses and insists on finishing both of them off, only for Gyutaro to leap into the air and stab the woman in the face with his sickle, killing her instantly. Deserved, she was a bitch. Shocked to see him still alive, the samurai hears Gyutaro's menacingly compliment menacingly compliment him on his kimono and skin complexion. He guesses that he eats plenty and has a nice clean bed to sleep in. He believes that good things are all he knows, even a house to protect him from the weather, angrily calling him lucky. As the samurai then takes a stance, Gitaro states that someone as well as him shouldn't be one to complain over a lost eyeball. The man charges Gitaro, but the boy slices his head in half in retaliation. And sadly, we don't get to see what the head split, but we do see him make the slash. So it's still there, but this is just the one time they decided to censor it. Why? I don't know. I guess it was just a little too horrifying for the censors. Gitaro then carries Yume's body throughout the district, but his efforts are in vain as no one offers them help. He ends up collapsing from exhaustion, still carrying his sister in his arms as snow begins to fall in the city. He grieves over the needed help they were never given, no matter the situation, cursing the belief that fortune and misfortune are intertwined over their continual miserable existence. Suddenly, the siblings are happened upon by the former upper rank 6 of then, who had been wandering about the district while eating his meal. Calling himself kind-hearted and believing that Yume will die soon, the demon offers to give the two his blood and transforms them. Furthermore, he believes that if he accepts them, they can be demons as well. Dropping the head he was eating, he asks whether they can become a 12 Kizuki and rise up as he has. And then they meet in the afterlife, him and his sister. And Yume, even after Gitaro yells at her to get away from him because his biggest regret is dragging her down with him because of how he is, Yume, even in the afterlife, refuses to go to the light and stays with her brother. So both of them together walk into the fires of hell. As this tragic you can possibly think of. Then Obanai appears, giving Tengen a backhanded compliment for killing an Upper Kizuki. You know, Obanai being Obanai. Then Tengen and his wives decide to retire. Tengen due to his injuries and his wives because they feel like they've done all they can as kunoichi, choosing Tanjiro to take his place. Kaguya then gives his thanks to Tengen and the Slayers for their victory, as he's also slowly dying from his own illness. Which I think is going to happen in either the next arc or the Hashira training arc, sometime soon. Akaza is then brought to the Infinity Castle by Muzan, knowing right away that the only reason that he was brought there is because an upper rank has been killed. Obviously shocking him and leaving him terrified of what Muzan's about to do. Then, all the survivors have a crying moment which ends episode 44 in the arc, being grateful that they somehow survived all that. And that's it. That's the arc. There's, needless to say, a lot that happened, and needless to say, it's amazing. It's an amazing arc, plain and simple. I love Tengen as a character. Them dressing as girls is really funny. The story is great. Daki is a great villain. Gitaro is also a great villain. Like, the villains are much better in this arc than they were in the last one. Well, excluding Mugen I'm talking about Mount Nagano. Then, the writing's great in this one. Once again, they have the balls to keep things unpredictable and make it look like any character could die at any moment, even the main characters, which I appreciate that this show keeps things ambiguous from time to time, keeping you at the edge of your seat, not knowing what's going to happen next. And the arc ends on another one of the best fights of the entire show. I don't know what else there is to really say. Not to mention, we've already passed the 45-minute mark, so I'm going to go ahead and end this here. So thank you guys so much for watching. My final verdict for the Entertainment District arc of Demon Slayer Kimetsu no Yaiba. High, well-deserved, 9.5 out of 10. Why is it not a 10? Because the new opening sucks. Yes, I'm that petty. That is literally my only problem with this entire season, that this opening of the show, the second OP, is flat out bad. Like, I did not like the OP song that they used for this arc at all. I think it's bad. So, excuse me, allergies. But that's gonna do it for me. Thank you guys so much for watching. Still an incredible arc. Absolutely check it out. Top 3, if not top 2 arc in the entire franchise. And now we only have 2 more arcs to go. We're not going to get through them in time for Infinity Castle, but I promise you once I get to see Infinity Castle, I will still make a review. So, don't worry, we're still going to cover all of it, but I am going to have to space it out a little more because these arcs are a lot longer and much more arduous than the ones that we've already tackled in the past. So, thank you all so much for watching, keep on slaying, and I'll see you next time for the Swordsmith Village arc.